Welcome everybody, Doug Schakel here, retired head men's basketball coach at Colorado Mesa University. Got a really good video for youth basketball coaches here today. It's the Scramble Pressure Defense for youth basketball. It's got some great game footage in it that I think will really enhance the learning process as far as this defense goes. I want to give you some background a little bit. Of course, I was a collegiate basketball coach for 40 years. Before that, 9 years as a high school basketball coach. But upon retirement, we moved to the Kansas City area to be near family, and I ended up kind of getting volunteered, as some of you do, to coach a girls' youth basketball team, which of course included a family member, my granddaughter in this case. But anyway, so 2 years ago, 3 seasons ago, I started to work with a group of 5th grade girls. Now these girls are seasonal players, and that means that they pick up a basketball for the first time at the first practice in December, and they put it back in a closet after the last basketball game at the tail end of February, and don't pick up a ball anywhere in between that. And we played in a recreation league, not a travel team, not a tryout team. It's a group of girls that are friends at middle school and wanted to play basketball together. And in fact, there are different division levels, and we played not in Division I the first 2 years, but in Division II. And so give you a little bit of an idea, again, where we come from. If you have seen our modified triangle offense videos, there are 5 of those out right now. That's an offense I introduced to these girls when they were in 5th grade, and they took to it really well, won a league championship. In fact, this group has won 3 straight league championships, but they won a league championship, and that inspired me, if you will, to put together a video. Now it's a 5-part video, but I put together a video on the modified triangle offense. It was really, it helped us be successful in that first year. Then, a year later, fast forward to a year later in 6th grade, first of all, we lose our best player, a little point guard that was a really good player, probably accounted for, I'm going to say, 45% of our scoring. She moved up to play with the Division I team, as she should have. She wanted to be challenged a little bit more, and we certainly agreed with that. So that left us with not a lot of offensive firepower. And so we started our practices, and then we practiced maybe 3 or 4 times, and we always shared a gym with another team. So after that 3rd or 4th practice, or in the middle of it, the opposing coach came down and said, "Hey, you want to scrimmage the last 15 minutes of practice time?" And I thought, yeah, not a bad idea. Let's see where we are. Again, we practice once a week, an hour, sometimes an hour and 15 minutes, and then we played a game on the weekend. And so we did that, and the following week, same thing happened, sharing a gym, and the other team comes down and we scrimmage. So we had 2 15-minute scrimmages, total of 30 minutes, which would be the equivalent of a 3/4 of a game, because we played 2 20-minute running halves. So we played 30 minutes, and we didn't score. We did not score a point in 30 minutes. Now, we got some good shots, out of our modified triangle offense, but again, we just our skill level and shooting in particular. We had kids that played a lot of different sports. We had soccer players, volleyball, track and field, but basketball wasn't really a primary sport for those kids. And so we got lots of good shots. We just we couldn't make shots, and so that obviously caused some concern, because I was wondering how we were going to score that year. So that's when I decided that, all right, we're going to have to create offense with our defense. And that was the first year we were allowed to press. So I had been in my high school years, like I said, I did it for 9 years. My high school years, the last 5 years as an example, we pressed full court all the time. And our average score in that 5-year span was 81-42. And we had a state championship team, a state runner-up team, a 3rd place state team, 6th place state team. We had another team that was #1 team in the state all year, and we got upset in the district finals, didn't make it to state. So again, drawing upon that background, I'd watched our fellow youth coaches. Like I said, we shared a gym, and I'd look down occasionally and watch what they're doing, and they were spending a lot of time on half-court offense and set plays. And had some good youth coaches. I mean, I had some people that really did a good job. And they were pretty good at installing these offenses, putting set plays in. And so as I watched that and the amount of time that they were spending on on their offenses, and we were doing the same thing. We were spending a lot of time on our offense and our skill work and everything else. So as I began to look at it, I thought, okay, our first objective is going to be this defensively, that under no circumstances are we going to allow our opponents to run their half-court offense. We simply were not going to allow them to do what they spent the majority of their practices on. And that started with a full-court press, which we employed whether we scored or didn't score. In other words, if we shot and missed, the press was on. And obviously we'll get into that here later in the video. And we never stopped pressuring and trapping the ball, even in the front court. And so it became a very disruptive thing. And by continuing to pressure and trap in the front court, we did make it impossible for people to run their offenses, their offensive sets, because they were dealing with trapping defense all the time. And pressuring all over the court also meant this, that our opponent's players' individual skill sets were going to be constantly challenged. If there were ball skill deficiencies, then they were going to be exposed. Well, we certainly got the results that we were looking for. Our scramble pressure defense caused 25 to 40 turnovers a game. Team went undefeated in 10 games and won by an average of 12 points per game. When we get to the game footage, you'll see all the ways that we were able to cause turnovers with this defense. And every turnover meant one less shot for our opponent. It also meant lots of extra scoring opportunities for us, especially layup chances. So as a result, we made sure we practiced lots of full court layups, or rather I'd say we'd start from about the half court line and dribble in and shoot layups. And in the early going, that's all we did was practice these layups with speed, getting across the idea that in that last step and a half you need to slow down just a little bit so you can convert horizontal momentum into vertical momentum. So many times kids come in too fast, don't slow down, and the ball crashes into the backboard. It really doesn't have a chance to go in the basket. So it's a lay up, not a lay out. So we make sure, again, the last step and a half, you slow just a little bit, you convert horizontal momentum into vertical momentum. But we still found that we still missed our share of layups. So we changed our drill just a little bit, and we did it this way. We'd have a coach with a basketball over here, and we'd have our players in pairs right here, another coach there. And we would teach the players how to read the eyes and the body language of a passer so they could intercept passes. So as we would throw this pass across, this kid would come, this first kid in line would come in and intercept and head on in to shoot a layup. The partner would trail or chase the shooter. We call it chase the shooter drill. And as this kid would come in and shoot the ball and go on past, this kid came in and got the rebound. However, if this ball came off and missed, this kid would corral that rebound and put the shot back up themselves. And that paid a lot of dividends for us in games. Our kids got in the habit, because of this drill, this chase the shooter drill, of chasing our layup shooter. If they happened to miss, we had someone there to get that rebound and score on the putback. So that really helped us quite a bit. The other thing we did is this: anytime we shot layups from this side, and again, we're in a recreation league, and so we only have so much time, an hour and 15 minutes for practices and everything. Rather than trying to teach them to shoot left-hand layups, that was something they're going to have to do on their own if they really wanted to get better in the game. We would shoot right-hand layups on the left side, and it just was a lot better way, a lot more successful way for us to be able to score from that side of the basket. Now, I should mention this, that we had a 10-player roster, and we usually had 9 or 10 players each game, and that we would sub 4 or 5 players at a time every 5 minutes in a 40-minute running clock. Now, what this did is it allowed us to keep really good energy. Kids could really play hard for 5 minutes, and here come another wave, almost like a hockey, where they change lines and everything. So it's kind of the same thing. Because our players were almost all of equal ability, there wasn't a drop-off. It wasn't like we had a really good team and an average team that we'd put on the floor. They both were, pretty similar. But it's something you might want to consider. When I was a high school coach, I mentioned we pressed. we pressed basically with 7, maybe 8 players. Of course, we practiced every day and had a much better fitness level because we practiced every day. But anyway, something you might want to take into consideration, some player, like we had a game this year with our 7th graders, we only had 6 players show up and we couldn't press. So what we did is we dropped back and we started our press at the half court instead of the full court, and still got pretty good results. And also should mention this year, I mentioned 7th graders, we moved this year because we had won the league in 5th grade and 6th grade. They moved us up into Division 1. We had a couple players that had moved away. We added 2 players. In fact, one of them was the point guard I mentioned earlier that was with us in 5th grade. She decided that she wanted to come back and play with us, and we picked up one other player. And with this group and the Division 1 level, using the Scramble Pressure Defense, our average win in a 12-0 season was by 22 points a game. Now it's kind of interesting. We had a 15-point lead rule in our league, and then you got a 15-point lead, you had to take the press off. What's interesting with that 6th grade team is that anytime we had to drop back and play just a regular defense without trapping, we got outscored. Every time that happened, we got outscored because our opponent wasn't turning it over, they were getting a shot up instead, and we weren't getting turnovers to produce layups, and we had to rely on our half-court offense, and we still had trouble shooting the ball, and so we had trouble scoring in that situation. All right, so we're just about ready to move on to the part where we're going to teach the defense to you, but here's what I want you to do to get the most out of this. What I'd like for you now is actually leave this video, make a note of where you are right now on the time, elapsed time on the video. Go watch part 2. Go watch the part 2 video, which is live game action with the sound off. Just trust me, with the sound off. After you've done that, then come back to this point in video 1 or part 1. Watch how to teach it, and then go back and watch part 2 with the sound on. What this does, it follows, by doing that, you follow what I call the whole method of teaching. Switching now to live game action will get a feel for what the defense looks like. Now you come back to here to the teach it part, and it makes a little bit more sense. And then you go back to the part 2 with the sound on, because I do some voiceover narration on those live game action clips, and it'll really fall into place nicely for you. So that's my suggestion to you. So let's get into the execution of the ABC Scramble Pressure Defense. Now, I'm going to give you way too much information. I tend to do that in my videos, and the reason I do it is that I try to anticipate potential questions that you might have. What do you do when this kid goes here, the ball goes there, or whatever it may be. Having said that, nonetheless, I'm sure there's still going to be some questions that you'll have, and you can if you look at the beginning of the video, you can see my email address there, and you can email me, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. Now, let's talk about the the thing that really guides what we're trying to do here when we're pressing in our pressure defense. And so I want to talk about the difference between guidelines and rules. We use guidelines, and the reason we use guidelines is that when you have guidelines, what I notice, it produces more freedom and more creativity from the players. Whereas players, when you have rules, they tend to be rigid. You're supposed to be exactly in this place when the ball's here, and then when it goes there, you're supposed to be exactly in that spot. And I think it really makes it difficult for them. And so when we allow the freedom to use guidelines, our kids, I tell you the truth, a lot of the things that have improved my coaching have come about because of the freedom and the creativity that we give our kids, and the risks that they're willing to take. And all of a sudden, I pick up, oh, there's something we can do in the future. I'll remember that, to tell the players to look for this kind of thing. And it came about because one of our players took it upon themselves to take a risk and try something, and it turned out pretty well for them. All right, so we really just have a couple basic guidelines that we have. Number one that we tell our players is don't guard air. And as part of that, what we tell them is that you want to make a difference out there. So don't get caught guarding air. You want to make a difference. Where can you move? Yes, you start in a certain position, but where can you move to make a difference? And then the other thing that kids will hear me hollering out a lot during the game when we're in our press is, where's the next pass? Where's the next pass? I want them thinking ahead. I want them to see that, oh, okay, I see how this thing's unfolding, and I see with the next possible receiver, and I'm going to go over there and see if I can pick off a pass. Now, here's what you have to understand. Okay, it's going to produce excellence, but it won't be perfect. And you have to understand, sometimes, occasionally, we give up wide open layups, and it just looks awful. But when you look at the greater scheme of things, when you look at the big picture, you're going to find out that the trade-off with all the turnovers and all the chaos and disruption that you're going to create for your opponent is way, way in your favor. So just understand that it won't always be just exactly right. But it's going to be way more often than not, it's going to be right, and it's going to produce some pretty good results. As I mentioned earlier with that 6th grade team that we produced between 25 and 40 turnovers a game. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the alignments and the personnel placement. Well, if you look up here, these 5 guys I've got right here set up in a 1-2-2 press. That's the alignment that we start in. Now, it morphs and changes to adjust to whatever our opponents are doing, but those are our starting positions. Then again, like I said before, our rules are, don't guard air, make a difference. So can you go somewhere else? That's kind of, where you're going to start at, but can you go somewhere else and make a difference, all right? So I want to talk about how we get into this. So I'm going to take these guys off the floor here right now, and I'm going to put we use the modified triangle offense. A lot of you are familiar with that, and so I'm going to put our players up in those positions right there. So I'm going to show you how we get into this out of a made shot, out of a missed shot, and after a turnover, all right? So here's what happens. Let's say the rover shoots the ball and makes it. The ball goes out of bounds, and the other team goes here and is takes the ball out of bounds, is ready to go. So here's how we get into the ABC press, all right? Our point guard in this case, now it could be someone else. It does not have to be the point guard. Here again, guidelines, all right? So you might have somebody else who would be better in this position. This kid, for us, could really run fast, and that was a big deal in this press. So we kind of gave this player the A player in that ABC press. We called him the chaser, and so this guard would chase the ball. So go down here and we'll take the G out of there, and that's the A, all right? And then the rover and the wing are simply going to immediately swing to these 2 positions and become our B players. And the post and the center just simply drop right back to here and become our 2 C players, and now we're in a 1-2-2 alignment. Now, the other thing that we do is that on a miss, let me put these guys back here real quick, okay? Get it back here real quick, sorry for the delay, but we're in this situation, and a shot goes up and it's missed, okay? And the other team's 5-man center, whatever it is, gets the rebound. Well, here's what we're going to do. This kid always chases the ball. Make or miss, chases the ball. If it's a turnover, wherever that turnover occurs down here, chase the ball. All right? So that kid's going to run right in here to chase the ball on a miss, and the nearest teammate is going to apply a pressure right away also. So we're going to get into a trap right away. These kids are rotating. That kid's starting to come back. Now I say that kid's starting to come back, so they're trying to get into their, we had A, B, B, C, C. We're trying to get into those positions, but as you're running to those positions, maybe you stop because you see that they've got a player here, and that kid looks like, with his body language, you tell him to read the eyes and the body language. This number 5 looks like that player has turned and is going to make a pass over here, and so this kid's coming out here running to this spot, but as he's running says, oh, make a difference. And maybe I step in front there and get a ball and get a turnover and a layup possibility for us right there. So again, the other situation that we had is if we're in a turnover situation. I don't know what happens here, but the rover turns the ball over, and so the nearest player, it could be the rover could chase it. The guard's going to run in here. Now, here's what happens sometimes when you give kids how to make a difference. Creativity. The center may it's a center on his own, on her own, may come in here and Rover thought she was closest to it or he was closest to it, and they come in and trap. Well, we said the guard is going to chase, but the guard sees that and says, oh, wait a minute, maybe I can make a difference by running in front of that player, or maybe that looks like they're going to throw a pass across there and I can get that one. So again, I don't want rules, and this is really difficult because they are not organized in a press offense. When they miss the shot or when they turn it over, they are not organized in a press offense, and so an immediate trap is really, really effective. And we want to really get right up on them and play them tough, and don't give them a chance to look over the court and find another player to pass the ball to or whatever. So anyway, whether it's a make or a miss or a turnover, that's how we're going to get into that situation. Now, let me pull these guys off the floor here, and let's get back into our alignments here. All right, so I'll talk about this a little bit later, but one of the things, and we really find this when we drop back into a 1-2-2. Let's say they get through a press. We drop back into what amounts to a 1-2-2 half court, but again, we're still going to trap, and we're looking for A-B traps. We're looking for B-C traps, and sometimes this kid will rotate over and looking for C-C traps. All right, so it's a nice way of communicating to the kids, the idea of the ABC thing. All right, now, so I've told you about, who plays where. The rover and the wing are those of you who number the positions, those would be the 2 and the 3, and the center and the post would be the 4 and the 5 in that situation. Okay, so now we can adjust our alignments. Maybe we choose to adjust our alignment. We don't do this very often, but I'm telling you that you could do this, is that I might say, I want a BAC setup. All right, so the B's and C's are basically going to stay where they are, but we'll just run the A into there. There's a BAC alignment. And we might want to go 2-2-1, and we'd run the A down, back deeper, of course, than this. I don't know if you can pick it up if I move that if it's out of the picture here in the video and everything, but there'd be a 2-2-1 situation in a press. So in that situation you'd have a BCA press, so it's real easy to communicate. Now, one of the common things that we do is that we call for a CI, and it tells the C's to invert, and it's to match up on an offensive alignment. They'll invert and they'll turn into the letter I, okay, invert letter I. So if I say CI, they know exactly what that means. C's form an I. And it just puts us in a better position to match an alignment, whatever our opponent may be doing. All right, now, there's some other things that we can do with the A player. We can set them up here and put pressure on the ball, and we like to put pressure kind of on the side of the ball because we want to get the ball inbounded to the short side. We want a short pass, easier to follow that to trap, as opposed to if a pass is made from here way over here, that's a long way to go. I'm not saying we can't do it, and we will do it, but it's easier if we influence it that way. Now, another thing that we might do, that's our regular, that's our regular ABC press situation. Now, I can do another thing. I can take A, just turn A around, and we call this shortstop. If I say to our A player, I'll call that player's name out. I'll call it players out, and I say, let's shortstop it. So this kid turns around and is facing out in this direction. So if our opponents are doing something here in an alignment that's getting somebody free, somehow they're doing something to get somebody free, then the A player can pick that up. Maybe we don't want 3 to get the ball. 3 is a really good player, okay? And so A is looking for 3. They're doing everything they can do to get 3 open, and A will come over here and pick up. B might be a little bit late. We're just kind of double team that kid and make them get the ball inbounds to a lesser skilled player, and then A can chase, and B can maybe B will stay there. We just tell them we're not going to let that kid catch the ball, and we're going to play kind of a 4-on-4 zone press and just take this kid out of the game. Not going to let that kid be
a factor in the game. All right. So another thing that we can do here in the situation, I had the shortstop. Maybe we're doing a good job of we're in a denial situation. All right, and so we're doing a good job of being able to stop these players from catching a direct pass. Maybe we want to get in denial. Sometimes we'll get on the side of a player and influence. That is, this number 2 says, oh, I can beat him there. And sometimes we want to do that. Sometimes we just simply want to get around. We tell our players, screw your nose into their belly button. Your back is to the ball, okay? So both these Bs have their back to the ball right now, and they screw their nose into the belly buttons of those players, and they just stay with them, and they don't let them catch the basketball. Now, if they do some type of a screening situation, we'll switch that. The Bs come together, and then they'll switch and take the other player. And so we might go to this center field because their players are coming down here fairly deep, and then they're throwing a little lob over the top. So we've got this kid in this center field position and is reading the eyes of the passer and is reading who's getting open and who's not getting open, and all of a sudden sees that, okay, I know what they're going to do. They're going to throw it over the top, and A is going to be there to pick it off. All right, so again, that would be in that situation, that would be what we call A's now in the center field position. We could also have A, maybe we're denying all over, and for some reason we choose to put A, we call it a home run. You're as deep as the deepest receiver down here. You're way back, and you're in a home run position. We've never done that. I've done it in high school. With my high school teams. I've never done it with our youth teams. I'm giving way too much information, more than than you possibly need in our scenario right here. All right. So we've talked about playing regular, shortstop, center field, home run. We're denying. We can do a denial belly button. We can influence again. We play on the side of a kid. Maybe we get up on this kid and deny him or her, and we get on the side of this kid to make them think, oh, that's open, and so they come down here and pass it, and A chases the ball, and B's with them, and we've got that immediate trap. And of course, once that happens, B's going to make a difference, and if they're showing they want to go back there, then B's going to get in here so they can intercept that pass. And again, the C's now start to, what we're looking at in this situation is we're trying to take away sideline, middle, and return pass. Okay, so we just form this little umbrella right here, if you will. We're trying to take away the sideline pass. We're trying to take away the return pass and taking away this pass. We are gambling. They can't complete the long pass. Okay, and so we're going to make sure we really belly up in that trap and really make it difficult for the kid. We don't want them, we say don't let them quarterback it. Thinking about in football, where if the quarterback can sit back in there and has all the time in the pocket and there's no pressure and waits and waits and waits, and oh, there's an open receiver and throws the ball. We don't want to let them quarterback. We want to get all kinds of pressure on the ball, not on the player, on the ball. We try to touch the ball, okay? And if they present the ball to us, we aren't trying for a tie-up situation. We are going to grab and rip the ball out of the hands of that player. So let's go ahead and take a look at, again, some of these trapping techniques. Now, a situation that we like to get into sometimes here, we get in this trap right here, is what we call a sandwich trap. A lot of people will, get really two players tight together in that situation. But again, what we find a lot of times is the ball's passed and A is chasing and may come to that position, but and this player will turn their back. Okay, then if they turn their back this way, we want A to rotate with them. We call this a sandwich trap. All right, and invariably that kid will either, they just turn, all of a sudden we get the ball and literally we rip it out of their hands if we can, or they'll turn back and hand it to the other kid. Okay, so sometimes we're here, and if a kid rotates that way, this kid would rotate with him, and we create again what we call a sandwich trap. Now another thing that we do is that when they're throwing out of a trap and they choose to throw a bounce pass, if we can, we want to kick the ball. Now, you might say, why would we do that? Because it's going to give the ball back to the other team, and it does.
but it registers in that passer's mind that, oh, that bounce pass is just, that's not something I want to do, and it begins to limit their options in terms of trying to get out of that trap. Another thing we take a look at, occasionally we talk about show color. Let's say that, of course, we've got a blue team right here, and we see number 2 has come into the middle right there. Now, we could get around in front and just simply shut that off and make that pass not available. But sometimes we like to get not side by side, but maybe side and a step forward, okay? And as this kid is panicking and looking through right here, he sees blue and throws the ball, and then C steps in front of it and takes it on in. So we'll tell him, hey, you know, Brianna, show color, show color. Don't cut it off, just show color and then step in front. And I do want to mention this. I don't want them side by side, because a lot of times what happens here is we'll run into them and foul them to do that. So we want them about a half or a full step ahead, so that when they come for the ball, they've got a clean shot at the ball without running into that player right there, okay? And it'll be the same thing up the sideline, all right? So I'm trying to get out of the way. I guess maybe you can see this anyway, but it'll be the same thing here. Get on the side, maybe a step forward, so that when the pass comes up the sideline, we can step in front and intercept instead of, you know, running into that player, all right? Now, if the ball comes out of the trap, let's say it comes out of the trap on, you know, on a pass, it does get out of the trap. There's 2 ways that we can function right here, right now, and to get into our next trap. We can, you know, we had an AB trap here, and we could go for what we call a BC trap. The player nearest the exit pass chases the ball and would come on up here and trap with, you know, with that C player. If this kid would happen to put the ball on the floor, you know, and they're going down right here, this kid chases from behind. And this kid is trying to, I'm going to move these back up here a little bit further, okay? This C player right here, we tell him to cut, if you can run fast enough, I want you to get ahead and cut off the ball, not cut off the player. I want you to run around and run in front of the ball to see if we can get them to stop or change directions or whatever. But this kid is chasing from behind. If we can get this kid cut off, then they'll stop, and invariably this kid will stop and turn right back and almost hand the ball to B in that situation right there. All right, so that's, again, that's one possibility. The other thing that happens here, by the way, I should mention, and you've already seen it because you've seen you know, the video, the game videos of us trapping. They'll come all the way down the sideline into the front court, and B will chase them all the way down into the front court. And eventually they run out of real estate if we can't get them turned. If you can't get them turned, if C can't get this kid, you know, stopped and turned, run alongside, don't elbow, don't, you know, bump. You have to be careful about that. But just because they're going to run out of real estate, eventually they're going to get to the other baseline. And B can still come the full length of the court, and we can trap, you know, 85, 90 feet away down in the front court in that deep corner right down in there. So anyway, that was the nearest player. The nearest player chases the ball. But we happen to have a situation this year where A was so very, very fast that we just made it automatic that A would be the chaser. If A was available coming out of a trap, A was the chaser. Even though B was closer, A just had a lot of speed and could really close the gap really fast. So there's 2 different ways, you know, that you can do that. Now, the other thing that we're looking for here is this ball comes, and now, you know, let's say A did chase, because A chased for us right here. A chased, and let's say they're running down, they're going down the floor, and A is chasing from behind, and A would try to come from behind and steal the dribble, literally dribble the ball right out of the hands, come right in here and dribble the ball right out of the hands of number 4 in that situation, all right? Or if you can't do that, maybe you can tap it. And again, just the next time that kid dribbles, it makes them hesitant because they think somebody's coming from behind them, or you can come down and set that trap. So now we need to talk about
now we need to talk about the get-back players. And so there's a get-back player, excuse me, here's a get-back player, here's a get-back player, here's a get-back player. And so they've got to get back, and they are running again. They don't guard air, and we want to make a difference, and they are also operating under the guideline is where's the next pass? Where's the next logical pass? And so as we are flowing back through here, they run and read. Okay, they run and read. And so as they run down the floor, they're running and they're reading the situation. And where can I make a difference? They got a person that swung into here. Can I come over here? Oh, you can't see it. Sorry, got off the grid. But anyway, as they're running down, can they run in front of a player or near a player, show color, and then step in front of that player, to intercept it? And sometimes you run down there just to help. Maybe they've got somebody all the way down at the other end of the basket, and you're sprinting down there to help give us protection at the basket. And as you saw in the previous video, all the game footage, there are times when they had a player open. But again, the ball skill level of the player that had the ball simply had to have their eyes down to dribble that basketball and didn't see a wide open player at the other end. Now, our drop back defense, let's turn this around, and we'll pretend now that we're in our drop back defense. Okay, so they've come through the press this way, all right? And so we're dropped back into these positions right into here, all right? And we are going to look for, let's put a couple players there, and let's put a player, here and here, and either could a post player there, could put a post player down here. I don't know where they're going to be, but we'll adjust accordingly. But we will look for A-B traps. If that pass comes, and there's an A-B trap, nobody here, C says, I want to make a difference, okay, and where's the next pass? Might be able to come up and pick a pass off right there, and B could do the same thing, all right? But let's say the pass gets out, and C is up there. B is, in this situation, is probably going to be the one that chases. C would probably rotate over. A is going to, where can I make a difference? And it might be that, well, I know they try to throw return passes. I'll cut that off. B's dropping down into here. Maybe this kid drives around here, and C cuts off, and this C. We have a CC trap. And again, kids are there. We're flowing back in here. These are the get-back kids, even in a quarter-court situation. These get-back kids are coming back here. Where can I make a difference? Now, they may throw something out, and we get into a regroup situation. There will be times when you won't be able to do consecutive traps. It just happens sometimes. But you can always regroup and get into position to be able to begin trapping again. But we are not going to let them run their half-court offense. They are not going to run plays, because as soon as they start to run a play, we're trapping the ball, and now all bets are off, because while the other people are running around doing their cuts, we got all this two-man pressure on the person with the basketball. So we're not going to let them do that, all right? And so anyway, we're in these situations right here, and I want to show you one other little adjustment that we make sometimes, and it would be this, is that let's say the ball goes here, all right, and it came out of an A-B trap, and C came out and B chased it. Now again, maybe this person starts to drive down here. We said we could do a CC trap, but actually one of the things that we evolved into this year is that when the ball came over to here, this kid was a good rebounder, and most teams are right-handed. I mean, they'll run 80% of their stuff on this side of the floor. So we put a pretty decent rebounder right here. When the ball went here, we actually had our opposite B kid come in or take that pass away, and if they started to drive, B came over along with that C kid to create a trap. All right, and then we could either bring C across now to help in that situation. Again, I know if you're a perfectionist and if you like rules, you're not going to like this. But it's total chaos, and that's the deal. We are so unpredictable. We never know sometimes who's going to cover that guy. We don't know if it's going to be that guy, might be this guy, maybe this guy dropped big. I don't know, but see. They don't know either, and so they don't know where it's coming from. And you can see sometimes the kids are looking around and see where our next defender is going to come from. And so it is extremely disruptive. And of course,
if we don't get a turnover, we get a lot of time, we get a lot of shots where they don't have very good board coverage, and we get the rebound, and we try to dribble the full length of the court to see if we can get a quick scoring opportunity. So anyway, I hope that between the 3 videos here, I had the background video, and then we did the video with all the game footage in it that you can refer back to all the time, and now maybe some of these explanations. I hope between the 3 of them that you get a pretty good idea of what we're trying to do out here. So again, I mean, it's an ABC scramble. We are scrambling all the time. So like I said, we start in 1-2-2, we drop back supposedly in a 1-2-2, but that thing it's like an amoeba, it just changes shapes all the time, and it's just amazing the amount of disruption that you cause to the other team, and the wonderful scoring opportunities that you get as a result of causing all those turnovers. So until next time, this is Doug Schakel signing off.